My name is Carolyn Jones, and I was a Peace Corps volunteer in India 44, 1967 to 1969, and I served in Maharashtra, 240 miles southeast of Bombay. There are so many stories. Peace Corps changed my life. It was the most wonderful experience of my life, even though there were some close call stories, but one of them is when we landed and got off the plane, it was like a blast furnace. Immediately, the cultural shock was temperature. I love the food, I still do. When we arrived, after we did some in-country training, we took our trunks, got on our bus, and went to our village, Vitas. And then that was during the monsoon season, and the bus had to stop, and the creek was now overflowing, and we had to wait for the other bus to come to meet us, and the people on that bus would wade through the creek and we the other. Well, I was probably the tallest one there. I didn't think any problems. I started to go across the creek, and it was raging. I had my backpack, which had my very special things in it, which I had to let go. And I had to grab the people in front and back, and we were always told that you don't look at somebody in the eye. It's not the right thing to do. You don't touch. But this was life or death. So we all grabbed one another. We made it across this raging stream, and it was a wonderful feeling of, even though we lost a lot of things, it was that feeling of the instant bonding, and that's my story really, is the bonding. I still feel it in my heart.
Nancy Samuel. I was in Peace Corps India 44A in 1969 to 1967 to 1969, and I was stationed in the state of Maharashtra, the village of Nandura.
Kathy Sohn. I was from Greensboro, North Carolina. I lived in Risod, India, Bombay district, and I was in a rural public health project. We did a vaccination project.
Hi, I'm Susie Spence from Rochelle, Florida. I was in India as a Peace Corps volunteer from 1967 until 1969. I worked in Balod district in the state of Maharashtra.
Carolyn Adler, India 44A, 1967 to 69. I was in Maharashtra doing rural public health and nutrition. Worked in a village health center and helped with delivering babies and at the general health center in our village in Nandura.
Diane Jeffcott. I was in India in 1967 through 69. I lived in a small village called Balod, and I worked in public health and family planning.
Hi, I'm Lynn Graham. I served as a volunteer in India from 1967 to 1969 in India, in the state of Maharashtra, where Bombay is the capital, but far away from there in a little dusty village doing public health work.
My name is Gerard Wilson. I was in India 44. I was stationed in India in the Rajasthan province, and we were working in agriculture.
And the years?
1967 to 1969.
I'm Tom McDermott. I was in India in 1967 to 69 in southern Rajasthan on the Gujarat border. I worked in an agriculture group and dealt mainly with tribal villages.
Okay, my name's Cliff Lopez. I served in India from 1968 to 1970, in the state of Orissa. Going to India was really a big step for me. I mean, there was nothing there that reminded me of home, nothing that was exactly the same, and it was very difficult to make an adjustment. You know, when I got there, I pretty much felt like, my frame of mind was that everybody in the world lived the same way that my parents and I did, and if they didn't, they were wrong. So having that attitude made it very difficult to adjust to a culture like that where nothing was the same. The food wasn't the same. The way they drove, the way they went to the bathroom, and the way they ate, nothing was the same. And so it was really a difficult adjustment. I had, very good group and good support from the other volunteers, but it was very difficult. I tell people about it. My memory of it is that it was very difficult all the time I was there, and very difficult for living and getting by. But ever since I left, I've loved it. It was just, I didn't realize how much I had learned and how much my horizons had broadened through that experience. Crazy one afternoon, and I going, okay, I got to get out of here. I've got to do something. And so I looked at my watch, and there was a train that left in about a half an hour. And I said, okay, if I get on my bike and just go as fast as I can, right now I can make it to the train station and I can get out to the beach. Mm-hmm. So it's the rainy season, and I put my umbrella over my handlebars and across my front tire like that. And so I'm riding as fast as I can, and I come to one of those turning circles, that they have in England, and they had them in India also, but they're all washboardy. So I go hauling ass around that turn, hit the washboards. My umbrella comes up, comes back down inside the spokes, locks the wheel, and I go right over, flat on my back, and here's a Mercedes-Benz truck.
Oh my gosh.
Right here. And an Indian guy walks up to me with his umbrella and his dhoti on, and he goes, "You must be coming from America." And I go, ha 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 ha. He says, "America is a very fast country. India is a very slow country. You must be going very slow in India."
Interesting, wow.
And so I threw my bike onto a rickshaw and got to the train station, ran in there. It was 3 hours late.
Oh my God. Oh.
So that was a pretty typical Indian story.
Wow, wow,
yeah.
wow.
Everything that was probably one of the most difficult things to do. That was actually one of my friend's take on his experience there, is that the hardest thing to learn was to not do anything. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We're so dialed into being busy all the time, mm-hmm. and they're not there. Mm-hmm. And if you try and be that way there, you'll really go crazy.
My name is Elsa Fredham. I was in India, actually in Madhya Pradesh, from 1968 to 1970. And people would ask me where in India I was, because it's fairly large. I would say think of India like a diamond, and if you write the word India across the wide part, I was under the D. So she and I had a 4-H group of maybe half a dozen boys, and yes, it was only boys. The girls weren't interested in it or weren't allowed or whatever. And these kids were living in, as I said, in the middle of India, pretty much right in the middle, and had really not even been to the capital of their state, of Madhya Pradesh. They'd never been to Bhopal, never been on a train. They just walked to school and then just hung around where they were. Well, we decided we'd take them to New Delhi. So we raised money for their train tickets and did all kinds of things locally, and they got, only 4 of them went, but we got them to New Delhi. We got in to see Mrs. Gandhi. She would have groups in every morning. You come at 9, you come at 9:30, you come. She did this on a regular basis. So we have a picture of all of us with Mrs. Gandhi, and then when we got back home, I said to the kids, "Well, what was the best thing about this trip?" We got to ride in an elevator. So you never know. You just never know.
Wow, that's great. My name is Alan Jamaric, and I was in India in 1968-69. Unfortunately, I had to leave early on a medical evacuation because of several bouts of dysentery, I served in the northern Indian state of Haryana in a little town called Gula near a bigger town called Karnal. And project was helping farmers with tube well, so a tube well project. Stories, I just have it was the highs and lows. You know, the bugs, the heat, lack of sanitation and all. But the good memories were just meeting a lot of interesting folks from Sikhs, a lot of Sikhs where I was, and that was interesting. Sikhs, and watching how Sikhs and Hindus got along together, and that was very, very interesting. And all the experience was just wonderful, and I'd go back again if my old body would handle it.
Larry Kleingartner, India, 1969 to 1971, and our group was India 73, and lived in the province of Maharashtra and the village of Jawar. Lots of anecdotes, obviously, but one that really sticks in my mind is when I got there, and I came from an agricultural farm here, and we always had to pick rocks off the soil here. And when I got there, here were these hillsides, and they were full of stones. And what they did was plant millet in those hillsides. And so I tell the farmers, well, the first thing we've got to do is pick those stones off those hillsides. And they go, no. And they tried to explain why, but my language wasn't good enough yet at that point in time. But when the monsoons came, and we got 12, sometimes inches a day, maybe 20 inches a day, I quickly understood why the rocks were so important to remain where they were at. And so all that good knowledge from my North Dakota roots, didn't translate, obviously. Another one, just, great planning. We're all such, Americans, we're all such great planners. We want to get things done. And I set up with these farmers a vegetable irrigation system. And that was in their off season, in the wintertime. And we spent a lot of work getting that well put together and the engine working. And so I ran off to this agricultural institute, got a bunch of vegetable seedlings, and I said, I'll be back at 5 o'clock on the bus, be ready. We'll plant them late in the afternoon so they'll, have the night to adjust, the plants that is. And I get to the bus depot and none of my guys are there. None of them are there. And I walk up to the village, and I got these big baskets of vegetables, vegetable seedlings, and the villagers, they're having a wedding. And I say, hey guys, what's going on? And they say, well, this is the wedding season. We don't want to do a whole lot of things in the wedding season. Well, why didn't you tell me? Well, we didn't want to hurt your feelings because this was your project, probably a little bit more than it was theirs. Yeah, so that was another real, head against the wall kind of, boy, I need to be much more culturally sensitive in the future here as I put these, work on these projects.
I was Randall Donahue. My wife and I were in India, 1970 through 72, India 106. It was a married couples program. Horticulture and nutrition.